Shalom and welcome to my weekly video message. Today I'd like to share with you two beautiful stories. The first one I heard the other night while watching a live virtual interview with Chabad rabbis Levi Duchman of the UAE and Levi Banan of Morocco. The entire interview was fascinating, but to me the impact of Chabad in Morocco was especially heartwarming, and incredibly, by divine providence I was able to get to see their impact the very next morning in conversation with a Moroccan Jew I know who began telling me about his personal experience with Chabad in Morocco and the deep admiration he has for the Rebbe as a result. In his closing remarks, Rabbi Banan shared the following. He said that while the king of Morocco is usually in his palace and not that accessible, during the month of Ramadan, the king goes out and drives around on his own, sometimes with another car following him, and he is accessible to anyone who wishes to approach him. In fact, in some cities, they even put up signs with his route. But since you really never know exactly when he is coming, most people do not go to see him, unless you are one of those who wish to stand around waiting. Those who do can easily stop the king at a red light, take a selfie with him, speak with him while he is walking, or ask for a request. There was a Jewish boy that once approached the king and told him that his father does not have a job and that he would really like for him to get a liquor license. The next week, the boy's father was given a liquor license, and today he has a job. The second story I read just 1 year ago. It was told by Rabbi Yitzchak Tuvia Weiss, the chief rabbi for the Orthodox Council of Jerusalem. In 1939, a few months before his bar mitzvah, rumors of World War II reached his village, and being unsure as to whether the rumors were completely accurate and what course of action should be taken, the community leaders asked young Tuvia to run to the leaders in the city of Pressburg, some 2.5 miles from their village, and find out what should be done. Tuvia rushed over and was immediately instructed by the leader of the city to go back and tell them that it is worse than they could imagine. Whoever could escape should do so as soon as possible. No one should wait to save their money or business. Save yourselves and your family. It is beyond dangerous. Then the leader said to him, England has agreed that we could send them 1,000 unaccompanied children under 17 years old, and I'd like to give you one of those tickets. He then told Tuvia to quickly go home to inform them of the dire situation and to come right back because the transport would be leaving in just a few days. After giving over the information to the village leaders, Tuvia went home to tell his parents what he had been told. And at that inconceivable moment, his father told him that his tefillin were not yet ready for his bar mitzvah. And so instead, he would give him a Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law, which he actually mastered shortly thereafter. He then packed a few belongings and bid his family farewell. Just a few weeks after Tuvia arrived in England with the kinder transport, he received a package from his parents. It was a pair of tefillin. That was the very last time he had any communication with them. A little while later, news came that King George VI had requested to see the children that had come on that kinder transport. A date was set, and the children stood on the sides of the road, cheering and waving as the king's fancy car slowly passed by, when suddenly one boy broke ranks and proceeded to chase the car down the road and began banging on the trunk with all his might until the car stopped. The car door opened, and the boy found himself standing face to face with the king, who asked what he wished to tell him. The boy replied that he very much wanted to thank the king for having rescued and brought him and the other children to England, but it hurts him terribly, he said, knowing the fate that will befall his parents and siblings. The king responded by asking his name, the name of his parents, and where he was from. And with that, the meeting was over. 2 weeks later, the boy's headmaster called the boy to his office and told him that since he had made a big impression on the king had sent him a gift. And with that, the headmaster opened the side door, and standing there was the boy's parents. I was obviously moved by this story, but it kind of hit home when I found myself sitting at a wedding the very next day beside an elderly man who told me he was from Israel. But when I questioned his heavy British accent, he told me he was one of the 10,000 children rescued on the Kindertransport. My dear friends, we are now in the month of Elul, the month prior to Rosh Hashanah. In Likutei Torah, written by Reb Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the founder of Chabad, it describes the incredible opportunities and power of this month, using a parable of a king in the field, and explains that during this time, God is accessible to each and every one of us. During this month, you and I have the unique ability to approach the king, and when we do, he stops to respond with a smile and gives each of us the time of day. But in order to meet the king face to face, like the boy in Morocco and like the young boy from the Kindertransport, we too need to make an effort to reach out to our king, and we do so by adding in study of Torah, in prayer, and in charitable acts. And when we do, we can be sure that he will bless us with a sweet and healthy new year. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.